Imagine if any door could take you to anywhere, anytime, any place. That's right, we're talking about The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, this is Freya. Okay, so we just finished The Book of Doors and I totally forgot that I had it. We bought it when it was a buy one get one free sale at Barnes & Nobles, and so picked it up, put it on my shelf, and just completely forgot about it. As I was reading, I was instantly hooked to this story. It's about magical books, and it shows how far people are willing to go to either use them, to collect them, or even to protect them. The story starts off in New York, and we're with Cassie, who is a bookstore worker who is closing up the shop for the night. And as she's closing up, one of her favorite customers is there, an older gentleman who comes in almost every day. He tells her stories about his life and just spends time with her, and she kind of knows that he comes here because he doesn't have anybody else, family, friends, and so she enjoys his time that he spends with her. And then one night he passes away at the bookstore, and obviously this hurts Cassie, but as she sees, there's a book that he left on the table, and it's not a book she typically sees him with, and so she picks the book up and she realizes this is not a normal book. She opens the book, and inside there's an inscription saying that this book is for her, and it also says every door is any door, that this is the Book of Doors. And she has no clue what this means at the time. So she goes home, she talks to her best friend, she kind of shows her the book. And then Cassie figures out how to use this book. She opens the door in her apartment, and on the other side is Venice. Again, they live in New York. She walks through that door, and sure enough, she's in Venice. Behind her, through the door, she sees her New York apartment. And so they figure that this book could take them anywhere. So they try experimenting with it. Sure enough, it's a magical book, and what could be better than having a book that could take you anywhere? Of course, there's a downside. The book draws attention of this man in New York, and he introduces himself to Cassie and her friend. He kind of tells them like, hey, your life is in danger. And at this point, they're not believing him, but at the same time, they don't understand how he knows about these books. And so we see them talking, and then all of a sudden, another man comes through the door, looks at the stranger who is with Cassie and her friend, and pretty much attacks them. And Cassie uses the door to get all three of them out of danger. So then Cassie understands that this book is dangerous. People are after it. The stranger was right. The stranger introduces himself, and his name is Draman Fox, and he explains that he is the owner of the Fox Library. The Fox Library is a collection of all these other books that have magical abilities, and he tells them he is part of a group that is trying to save them, to keep them out of the hands of people who are dangerous. And this is probably where we are introduced to one of the most evil characters I've ever read about, ever seen in any story, movies, all that. She's simply introduced to us as the woman, and the scene that we are introduced to her as, it rivals that of Darth Vader. Remember when Darth Vader comes out, doors open, music changes, and we just know Darth Vader's probably not a good guy? Same thing in this book. The woman walks through a forest, we hear the nature, we hear the sounds, we read about how there's just life in the woods, and then with a single thought, all life around her dead. And so the reason why she kills every creature in that forest is, so it's not for survival, it's not for her feeling fear, it's just because she can. She enjoys the suffering of others. And so I'm guessing at this point she's probably not on the good side of the story. In this moment, we know that there's two people searching for this book. Fox is with Cassie, who is also wanting the book, but we don't know what he wants it for exactly. So Fox explains that this Book of Doors could obviously travel to any door that Cassie thinks of, and as she opens it, it will be that door. But he also explains it could be any door at any time of the world's existence that she can see or think of. And so at this point, time travel is brought up. And I was just thinking, great. Well, I don't like time travel. It gets messy. I get confused. I don't understand how some things happen and can change things. But in this story, time travel is like time turners in Harry Potter. which makes complete sense to me. The past can't change the future. Whatever you do to the past, it already happened. So we see Cassie able to go back in time, and there's one thing she really wants. She wants to see her grandfather, who passed away through an illness. And the day he passed away, she actually missed his last breath because she was taking care of him, and she went to leave that night, and she was so exhausted that she fell asleep in her car. And at that moment, her grandfather passed away. And so she just wanted to go back and speak to him, not on his deathbed, but so she travels back in time and she speaks to her grandfather, and he realizes it's her, but just older than she should be at that point of time. And the grandfather is probably my favorite character in this book. When we read of Cassie's grandfather, it just feels so personal. Gareth Brown knows how to write this character and make the grandfather feel as if it's you speaking to your own grandfather. So the grandfather raised Cassie on his own. He lost his wife, her grandmother, early on in life, before Cassie was older. And so Cassie and her grandfather were really tight. He was the person that gave Cassie her love of books. He would read her stories every night, and she just fell in love with that. And her grandfather worked every day of his life to support Cassie, and she knew what the sacrifice he made. And he would always explain to her that he wanted to travel. And so she thought that this book was the gift, that she was able to travel on his behalf. And what makes me really enjoy the grandfather is the conversations they have together. He is able to talk to her not as a kid anymore, as the adult he would never meet. He's able to give her life advice. There's just a few passages in here that made me realize this is what it feels like to talk to your grandparents.
You don't have a right to be happy.
Cassidy, look at me, look at my life. I lost my wife and my daughter. I worked every day to put food on the table and just about managed to keep my head above water, but it's never easy. There have been times when I went hungry, when I couldn't pay the bills. Happiness is not something you sit and wait for. You have to choose it and pursue it in spite of everything else. It's not going to be given to you. And that stuff you are talking about, missing the home, missing me, that's just growing older. You think I don't miss your grandmother? I do every day, in every breath, every moment we would have shared together. But you have to let things go, or it will eat you up. Let things pass. And so this advice is just some of that wisdom that only comes from a person who has experienced a long life. And it's just the way Brown writes these characters, is that it makes you just think about your own grandparents. And if you don't have your grandparents still, it gives you that feeling of nostalgia of just sitting on the porch, sitting on the driveway talking to them. And so Cassie uses this book to go back a couple of times to talk to her grandfather and kind of resolve the issues that she had. And he explains to her that she can't be sad anymore, that she needs to move on and do what she needs to do. And so this book is comprised of timelines going in, going out, catching up with each other. And so there's book collectors, there's death. Books are used to kill, books are used to protect. And it's this whole story about the power of books, the magic of books. And it's just a great roller coaster. I enjoyed all of this. I enjoyed the book. So time travel was there was one moment where I didn't understand how there wasn't two Cassies at one time. And I went to Goodreads to see if people have asked the author this question, and sure enough, there was. But at the same time, I learned that Goodreads is a mean place. I'm glad I'm not critical of the actual grammar and things like that, because I was never good at it. I'm just, like I said, I enjoy the stories, but people there were so brutal on this book about how the author did similes and too many of them and stuff like that, where I couldn't finish this book. I didn't notice any of that. Like I said, I enjoy the stories, and I think that's what makes me able to enjoy a lot more books. I rate this book a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed the book, and looking at the other reviews on Goodreads, from now on, I'm not reading comments, because if you love a book and you go on Goodreads, it's going to get you mad at all these people leaving bad reviews. I get it. Everyone's not going to like the same kind of books. But at the same time, why are you so mean? Anyway, if you enjoyed this book, let me know. If you didn't enjoy this book, be nice and let me know why you didn't enjoy it. But at the end of the day, I really enjoyed this. Hope to see you next time.